That recording has stopped now. It started now, I'm sorry. So welcome to our parent listening and information session for August 3rd. And again, a reminder that we will be recording this meeting. Tonight, I'm going to talk about a few items, including staff introductions, new student orientation, planned parent meetings, back to school night, student supports, some of the planning for fall, and we are going to have a moderated question and answer session. That question and answer session will work like this. If you have a question, you can use the chat box to ask your question. The chat box will be monitored for themes or burning questions, and those questions will be sent to me. It is important to note that all questions may not be answered tonight, but I will try to do my best to do that. So I want to begin by sharing the names of the administrative team. So my name is Shelton Mooney. I'm the principal. We have a new assistant principal this year, Ms. Vicki Adamson, who is the 9th grade administrator. Dr. David McGarwa, who is the 10th grade administrator. Ms. Rebecca Sutton, who is the 11th grade administrator. Mr. Sam Levine, who will be the 12th grade administrator. Mr. Nelson this year will be supervising ESOL and IB, which is both the middle year program and the diploma program. And then Ms. Deborah Teicher is our school business administrator. In addition to Ms. Adamson, we do have 3 other important new staff members. The first is Mr. Mike Krauzel, who is our athletic specialist. That's the position we used to call athletic director. Ms. Sonia Matus, who is our college and career information coordinator, our CCIC. And Mr. Tony Lewis, who is our MYP coordinator. Those are all new positions beginning this year. New staff members beginning this year. I want to share a couple of dates with you. The first is a save the date for new student orientation. That will occur on August 27th. The time and format are still to be determined, but it will occur in the morning. In addition, I want to let you know that we have some parent meetings scheduled via Zoom. On Tuesday, August 25th, we'll have a 12th grade parent meeting. Wednesday, August 26th, we will have an ESOL parent meeting. Thursday, August 27th, we'll have a 9th grade parent meeting. Tuesday, September 1st, we will have an 11th grade parent meeting. Wednesday, September 2nd, we will have an IB diploma program parent meeting. And on Thursday, September 3rd, we will have a 10th grade parent meeting, which will also include information about the MYP. We have also tentatively scheduled our back to school night, which it will look different this year, clearly. for September 10th. That time and format is also to be determined. Over the next few slides, I'm going to go over a few items that were shared with me as questions from the PTSA that had been themes that had emerged. One of those themes was about self-care and wellness opportunities. We are continuing to look at those and develop new opportunities, including a new organization that we will partner with called Our Minds Matter. Other opportunities for academic support, such as TAP and peer partners, will continue to operate in a virtual manner. They will look different, but they will continue to operate in a virtual manner. So I put this picture here so that we could really have a visual of what it is we don't know about instruction in the fall. But I have taken some of the common questions and tried to answer them as best I could. As we start to plan for the fall, one of the common questions is what time school will start. There's no answer for that right now. What I have been told is all MCPS high schools will start at the same time, and that we will need to coordinate with our feeder middle schools because we have cross-enrolled students. That is the extent of the answer I have at this time. I can tell you that the drafts that I have seen include a slightly later than normal start time for high school. Another common question, what will instruction look like? All of the drafts we have seen show block scheduling with live instruction for approximately an hour each time classes meet. What that means is classes would meet every other day, and students would receive instruction in those classes at that time. We are working as a school leadership team to develop expectations for student engagement and what that might look like. Another common question is the platform that will be used for virtual learning. Two answers to this question. All teachers and classes are going to be using My MCPS Classroom. If you remember, during the spring, teachers had the option of choosing Google Classroom. This fall, they will be using My MCPS. The other part of that answer is that the live and synchronous lessons will be held via Zoom. And teachers may choose other platforms to supplement Zoom. But that's the primary instructional platform. Another common question or series of questions is about clubs and athletics being available in the fall. There will be clubs and athletics available in the fall, but details are still being worked out. All interactions around clubs and athletics would be virtual at this point. More information will come out about this at the board meeting on Thursday. The next question is, how will we distribute materials to students? We'll use a similar system that we've used over the past few times that we either needed to collect or distribute, using the parking structure off of Pearl Street, and it'll occur over several days with dates still to be determined. Another question that I have received is about lunch distribution options. So all draft schedules that I've seen have an hour or more allotted for lunch so that students have an opportunity to get lunch if they need it from one of the meal distribution sites. And also importantly, take a break from staring at their computer screen for a bit. At this point, we are at the question and answer session. So a member of the PTSA has been monitoring the chat and has sent me several questions. I will go through them. Relatively slowly so Ms. Sutton can type them. The first question is about what will happen on Wednesdays and whether that will include live teaching. The answer is that right now, there are different options that are being shown. One option shows Wednesday without live instruction, and other options show Wednesday with live instruction. The next question is about parent access to MyMCPS. The MyMCPS portal that parents used last year to access grades and attendance is not being used anymore. That is part of the rollover to Synergy. Instructions about access to Synergy are coming soon. There are several questions about the block schedule and why that decision was made. I was not part of any of those conversations, and I do not know the answer to that, but every model of the schedule that we were presented as possibilities included that. That block schedule will also, everything I've seen includes about an hour of instruction per class per meeting, which would be roughly 4 hours of direct instruction a day for students. I'm sorry, I'm just taking a second to read the questions here. There's a question about how students will receive their schedules. Students typically receive their schedules the first day of school. We will be working and figuring out how to get them to students earlier, but it will be electronic. There's another question about the administrative assignments. Just to clarify, Mr. Nelson is not the senior administrator. That is Mr. Levine now. We've made some shifts. So there's another question about the block schedule. And so the block schedule, the way it's laid out right now, the options that I've seen has been students are in class for approximately an hour, depending on the variation. And then they have about a 15-minute break. And then the next class period starts. That block schedule would look something like periods 1, 3, 5, and 7 on one day. And then periods 2, 4, 6, and a supplemental period on the next day. That supplemental period is something that BCC will design for academic support and also to meet some of our other needs, including social emotional. So I'm looking at some other questions here. So so yes, all teachers will be required to use My MCPS Classroom. The purpose behind that is to have a consistent space where students and parents can look as we are in virtual learning. There's a question about summer math and English assignments. They should be available on the BCC website. If they're not, you could send me or Ms. Sutton an email and we will help you get access to those. So I'm looking at a question about attendance requirements. So attendance requirements will be the same as they were during regular school, I guess. We will be taking attendance. We will be monitoring student attendance, informing parents of attendance issues. So that will be something that is consistent. So another question is about whether or not classes will be recorded. The last I was told, the answer to that is no. There's a question about when students will learn who their counselors are. The counselor caseloads are in the process of being assigned right now. We had to wait until the rollover to the new, to Synergy was complete before we could do that. So there are a lot of questions about the, say, the having fewer number of hours of instruction in a block schedule than there is in regular school, and that's an accurate statement. The goal is to get as close as we can to regular school and take into account the needs of our students, the needs of the entire community, and the challenges of learning virtually. One of the reasons that classes would not meet every day is the idea of Zoom fatigue, which is that staring at that screen for 7 hours a day straight is not healthy, even from a mental standpoint. The next question is about teachers and office hours. That's one of the expectations that we're still working out about how teachers would be available to provide extra support to students. That is definitely something we will look at as a way to use that extra period that would be in every other day. Another question about why we would not record classes. That is a decision that has been handed down to us from the general counsel's office. And I believe that it is based on privacy concerns. There's a question about the end time for school, and that has not been set. That will be dependent upon the start time that is chosen for all high schools. It would not be 2:30. As an example, if we started at 9 a.m., 2:30 would not be the end time for school. The next question is about options for dual enrollment with Montgomery College. All the same options for dual enrollment with MC that we had in previous years still exist. Students and parents who are interested should reach out to their counselor or to their grade level administrator. There's a question about will there be a cameras on requirement for Zoom? I personally would like to see that. I can tell you that there has been a lot of conversation about it, but I don't know that there has been a final word. And I'm actually going to look at Ms. Sutton because she's part of that work group. So she is, if you can't see her, she's shaking her head no. No final word on that. The next question is about Synergy and how it will work. Synergy is meant to be a combination of all of the information systems we used, including gradebook, attendance, and communication. My experiences with it so far have been that it works well. Much better than what we have used in the past. The next question is, when is MCPS going to share information about school day times? So no later than the board meeting on August 6th. On a, again, personal note, I could tell you that having a rising kindergartner and a rising third grader, I am in the same position and I'm ready to know the times, and I don't know that. And Ms. Sutton is actually in the same position herself with a rising third grader. So we all want to know the times. Unfortunately, I don't have those yet. The next two questions are sort of go together. Is the final MCPS plan being presented on August 6th? And how can parents send comments to MCPS and the Board of Ed? The plan that's presented to the board on August 6th will be the plan that's presented to MSDE. And that plan will likely not have major revisions unless it's denied by MSDE. Comments to the board could be sent either to the Board of Education members' email or to askmcps@mcpsmd.org. The next question that's come up a couple of times, and that's how are we going to support ninth graders? We are working to have something similar to last year's Link Crew program to help ninth graders make a connection with peers and with upperclassmen. The beginning of that will be rolled out at new student orientation. There's a question about how art classes and music classes will work. Those are any of the performance arts classes, even PE classes. Those are conversations that our teacher leaders and central office curriculum staff have been working on all summer. All of our performance arts classes have been really spending time thinking about how they can make virtual learning meaningful and what they need to have in students' hands in order for them to be successful. There's a question that came through about class changes with this schedule. And I'm assuming that means transitions between classes. That will happen simply with students moving on to their next Zoom session. Oh, I just got a clarification. I'm sorry. Changing your schedule. That would be done through the same process it has been done in the past, contacting your counselor, discussing that, and seeing if there's availability. There's another question about technology needs for learning. The technology that would be needed is a Chromebook or similar. Chromebooks are currently available for students to pick up even during the summer in Rockville. And I'm confident that we will have another local distribution time. There's a question about AP and IB courses. It is my understanding that those classes will be covering the material that is needed for those exams. Lab courses will be modified as possible by the teachers. And I have been, at least for College Board, seeing communication about them modifying expectations. So there's a request to invite PE, art, and music teachers to the next Zoom to talk about their classes. I can definitely extend that invitation. So there have been a couple of questions about how grading and assessments will work. We will be returning to MCPS's grading and reporting policy. With expectation of standard-based, formative, and summative assessments, with opportunities for students to have reteaching and reassessment. That presents its own challenges in a virtual environment. So teachers will be utilizing some of the technology tools that we have available, including assessments through My MCPS Classroom. There's a question about a virtual club fair. Had a conversation last week with our student government president, and he and I have started planning a virtual club fair and how that might look. Typically, that would happen near the end of September. So there's a question about the turnaround time for teachers giving feedback on assignments. That is governed actually by the grading reporting policy and should be much faster than it was in the spring when that policy was not being followed due to the emergency situation. There's a question about a teacher response time to student emails. That should happen within 24 hours. Just as in the spring, though, we are going to ask everyone to allow some grace as we transition to this. But if you are not hearing back from teachers, please let your grade level administrator know so that we can follow up. So there's another question about the block schedule and how double period classes will work, and also how languages will work in that time period in a block schedule. Those are some of the details that we're still working out, and we're working with the curriculum specialists and our teacher leaders to think about how to best make that happen. So there's a question about counselors, replacement counselors. We have 2 new counselors this year. Mr. John Favazzo, Favazzo, who essentially replaced Ms. Palchek's caseload. And the second new counselor is Miss Tami, Temi Fakinlede, Fakinlede, I believe is how you spell her last name. And she is a new counselor this year as an added allotment. Those 2 new counselors are the reason that there's some shifting in caseloads. There's a question about what type of training teachers are receiving to help them with Zoom. They're engaged in professional development right now throughout the summer. And also a major part of our pre-service week will be dedicated to professional development around Zoom and virtual learning. So there's a question about whether or not I have discretion to modify the MCPS schedule. That's actually a question I won't know the answer to until I see the documents. The only clear point that I have been given is that all high schools will start and end at the same time. There's a question about how we will help ensure that students are aware of how to navigate Naviance for the college admissions process and college application process. We will continue to work through classes and have students engaged in learning in different periods of the day. For example, all 12th grade English classes might teach a lesson about Naviance early in the school year. So there's a question about the feedback that MCPS might have sought from students about virtual learning. MCPS did gather feedback, and students had the option of completing the survey that was provided. And there will be opportunities early and throughout virtual learning. So the next question is about the time frame for final information being released. My expectation is that it will be released at the board meeting on Thursday, if not before. So there's a question about substitute teachers. So MCPS is planning to utilize substitute teachers when teachers are absent. It would be very similar to how a substitute would have interacted with a class in the past. It is less than ideal when we only have a couple of hours of class a week, but we will do everything we can to ensure that instruction is meaningful in that time frame. So there's a question about whether or not the schedule might be changed if it's not working. That's a question that I do not have an answer to. I also don't know what metrics would be used to determine that the schedule is not working. There's a question about peer tutoring. So the peer tutoring program will operate. It will just operate virtually. The next question is about teacher supervision during Zoom lessons. Administrators will be able to join Zoom classes to see what's happening and to observe teachers. This is a process that we will be working on as an administrative team in order to ensure that everyone is getting quality instruction. Next question is about how 504 and IEP students are being supported. There's a combination of supports that will be in place. There will be co-taught classes with general educators, special educators, and paraeducators. There will also be resource classes and that extra period, that supplemental period that I mentioned earlier, provides an opportunity for case management. So there's a question about information session for the MC dual enrollment classes. I can get some information before next week. I can also look into whether or not students can switch classes at this point to join MC. I do not know, honestly, what MC's deadline for enrollment is. So there's another question about the SAT and PSAT tests in school. The last conversation that we've had, and luckily Ms. Sutton would be part of these conversations too, she's here, is that at this point we would not be planning to offer those in school for the fall. If things changed with that, we would, if there was an opportunity in the spring, we would offer those. But at this point, they would not be offered at BCC in the fall. So just want to share, I think we are finished. If you have additional questions, you can email them to me. You can email them to Ms. Winnick on the PTSA account. And we will look at a way to bundle those questions for next time and try to get those answers for you. I also am confident that after Thursday, we'll have a lot more information and be able to have a lot more firmness in our answers, a lot more certainty. So thank you all for your time. I do especially want to thank Ms. Sutton for typing for the past hour. And I will be back next week at 7 o'clock on Monday.